All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. This is probably, my guess, going to be one of the more listened to ones because of how new, innovative, interesting, controversial, the opinions, everything going on. This is Crest we're talking about. Massive claims we're going to get into on their battery charging time, all kinds of stuff, how it makes you better looking, how it de-ages everything. Actually, I'm overstepping the mark there. But some people get a bit hyped up about it. But we have Lachlan, many years in the industry, over 18 years in the industry, I believe. Can you present yourself as your role? That sounded like it was a legal thing. Present yourself. Can you introduce yourself, your role at Crest, what you do, and let's get into some very interesting stuff you've got.
Well, firstly, Luke, thanks for the opportunity. Lachlan McDonald, I'm the GM for commercial channels for Kress Australia. So pleased to be here.
And this is not, you've worked at other brands. I'm not going to talk about the other brands. It's not what this podcast is about. But this is not your first little foray into the industry, and especially in Australia.
No, as you said, 18 years of experience in the industry. I've seen a lot of changes in those times, but particularly last few years. I think the electrification is the mega trend, which the whole industry is embracing at this stage, and it is actually accelerating faster than probably we all thought there at one stage. So, yeah, a lot of changes.
It's kind of like an arms race, isn't it? Like somebody does this and somebody else does that and somebody does this. We had the one brand's announcing this product on the podcast series and another one's doing this, and it's for the user very exciting. Like it's a great spot to be in.
Great to have a lot of options out there, and there's plenty of good programs out there, particularly in the battery space. I suppose what we're about is filling those gaps that haven't been filled at this stage, and probably the Crest commercial program is fitting the bill for that. So it's true commercial power to replace petrol commercial.
I wanted to talk about very briefly, at least, the experience that you had, just at least mention it like we had. And the reason is that you are so new to the industry. You said 4 weeks off air. I was like, you've been around for 2 months. 4 weeks, it's even less than what I thought, right? Obviously, you've been at the business 7 months. There's more, that's been going on for years. Obviously, this is their Australian release. They've been in America and I believe Europe before. But so it's so new. And what comes with that is a lot of suspicion. A lot of and then you see some of the claims you guys make with charging times and all that sort of stuff. I've got to have a quick shout out to Tim, the Lawnmower man, because I had a phone conversation with him and we talked very briefly. He's the only person I was able to talk to who talked about it. Now, one thing he did say is that your normal charger was insanely fast. He was very impressed by that, if I can speak on his behalf. Sorry, Tim, if I've misrepresented you. Let's stop talking about him. But what I'm getting at is, at the moment, not many people have used it. So it's going to be very fascinating to talk about this. And it's good to have somebody who isn't, I think it's actually good for the listener, for you, to have your experience. You've been in the industry, clearly Australian. I can see an AFL jersey behind you that's being blurred out. So I think it's a voice that people will want to hear. So that's my introduction. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Pleased to be here. You're quite right. Sorry, Luke, I was just going to say, we have been out here 4+ weeks in the market. 80 plus dealers out there so far as part of our network. Mm-hmm. So it is exciting times, but we're looking forward to it.
How have you found the response? Because my guess is that it's a mixture of that suspicion because it's just new, and it would be anybody. It's not Crest. It's not Crest alone. Any new brand that's coming out, and then add in some bold claims, and people are going, "Wow, what's this?" And super interested in it. Have you found people really nervous about it? What's the feel? What's the response that you're getting?
Yeah, I think it's a fair call. You say we've got to earn the trust as a new player in the market. There's plenty of other loyalties out there, and we've got to give customers, particularly contractors, landscapers, and commercial users who we're targeting with the cyber system, we've got to give them a reason to change. And part of our strategy, at least for first up, is to actually get out there, get it in the hands of those people that use it. There are some bold claims. We can say what we want out there and make it sound fantastic, but at the end of the day, the validation's got to be with the user. So part of our strategy is to actually get trials out with the people that use the product and let them validate them in their own time. So, and that suspicion fairly quickly erodes. So I'm pleased to say, even though it's only been a short time, we've had some fantastic results in terms of the feedback we've had. And yes, the bold claims you say, but happily enough, they've all been validated to this point. So that's good news so far.
Well, some people do not know what we're talking about. They've never heard of Crest, and they're like, what the heck is this? I want to chuck something on the screen because this is the type of bold claim that you're making. Let me read this out for those who cannot see, which is most people, by the way, Lachlan. So sometimes when guests come on, and I'm bad at this too, you would think after so many episodes, but a lot of people listening. So let me read this out. The world's fastest battery charge, longer service life, twice the power. So it's everything, right? So some people would expect a balancing act, faster battery charge. Okay, well maybe you get amazing battery charge, but the service life, so the battery's life, drops down a little. Or maybe you have both, but you don't get the power. But you're saying huge battery life. Longer service life, incredibly fast battery charge, twice the power. What trickery are you doing to get? I mean, tell me all your intellectual property right now.
Funny, I get asked that a fair bit, actually, Luke. But look, without saying too much, because obviously there are patents involved, it is unique technology. We have the privilege of owning that technology as it stands. But the batteries themselves, or as we call it, the cyber packs. So there's a 4 amp hour battery, 11 amp hour battery as part of the range. They run cooler than your typical lithium ion battery.
Oh.
Now, because they're a cooler battery, there's two things. Basically, it reduces the charging time vastly because in most cases, or in all cases, a battery has to cool down before it starts charging. But secondly, obviously in hot conditions, it allows you to use those batteries operationally in higher ambient conditions in temperature. So
right, and that's obviously this week very important because this won't come out. This won't come out this week, but I mentioned this in the podcast I just recorded earlier with TTI. Let me get this message up from my wife. It is so hot this week. It is. So yesterday was 35. Today's 35. Tomorrow's 38, 39, 38, 39, 37, 34. And then middle of next week, it goes into 20s. So
perfect for our Cyberpack batteries.
So, okay, let's talk numbers, right? What kind of difference are you getting temperature-wise compared to a standard normal technology? I don't even know what the technology it says. Compared to most lithium-ion 18650 cells. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
So, in effect, there's different types of lithium-ion batteries out there. But, with ours, and again, you can't go into it in too much detail because of the patents. But typically, ours will provide that operational runtime in a wider range of conditions. And also, basically, with the charging, that's the key one. I mean, obviously, the whole message with all of this is that you can operate a battery for a longer time than you can deplete a battery. So at no time will you be there waiting for a battery to charge. That's the whole point of the program, which, let's face it, charge time's downtime if you don't have the actual
exactly. Technology. And everybody has, what do they call it, range anxiety when they're talking with a Tesla or something like that. But it's the same concept when you're using battery equipment because obviously with fuel, always have some fuel left. You got it in the canister, you run out, just pour some more in. And 30 seconds later, you're done. And so for the commercial operator, and I should say this as well, let's just start this out. This is really targeted towards the commercial industry, not necessarily the home person, although some people might be interested in this. That's who you're going for, right?
Yeah, we do have a prosumer range as well, Luke, which is more targeted towards your aspirational residential user.
That's a good
But,
word,
but,
aspirational.
but you're quite right. The cyber system is our commercial range of products.
I've been using like keen hobbyist, and aspirational sounds a lot more proper.
Yeah, correct.
You went to a better school than me, I think. Anyways,
Not sure about that.
let's not talk about that. Oh man, I ended up working for my school later on in life as a contractor, and I was like, nah. Anyways, moving on to the technology. So you're saying that basically it runs cooler, and because it runs cooler, if I'm simplifying this down too much, let me know. But because it runs cooler, all the other benefits come from it as well. So you can charge it faster, it's got a longer service life, and you can put more power through it.
100% right. And if I may, I just touch on a really key point. The Cyberpack batteries, the 4 and 11 amp hour, are good for 3,000 cycles. Now, 3,000 cycles, to put it in layman's terms, if you were to charge one battery per working day, every working day,
Yep.
Basically would give you 12 years of life.
Yep.
So that's what we're talking. So that's why
including long weekends. Including long weekends,
well,
that would be.
Sorry, I'm not allowing for weekends or long weekends or Christmas holidays there. So, but you're charging once a working day. Basically, that will give you 12 years of life. Now, that's why we have obviously the commercial warranty with the Cyberpack batteries of up to 8 years or 3,000 cycles, whichever comes first.
So I put this post out. I showed you this, but that was the thing. People are so suspicious about it, and it's. Do you know why? Because it's like it's like those online scams. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
if it's too good to be true, or it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And people like batteries, 8 years, come on, you know. But hey, not that I know, I can't vet this. I've never touched a Crest product before, but yeah, it's in. If you're saying it makes sense. Temperature lower, more cycles. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, can you give me some numbers on? So let's say it's this week. Let's say you come over to WA and you come out working with me, not in that suit, not appropriate, but not my t-shirt either. But
Yes.
You come out, we work together, right? And we're leaving. It's 39 degrees, right? I would say a lot of battery brands would be like, probably not the day to work. Is that still fine with the Crest stuff?
Look, it is. The battery, as I said, I mean, one thing's also operator comfort. When batteries get hot, particularly if you've got them in a backpack harness or close to your hands, that can provide some fatigue and a discomfort for the operator as well. But yes, absolutely. Technically, a lot of, which you would know too, a lot of organisations will shut down at 36 degrees or 35 degrees either, because that's just part of their OH&S policy. But
yeah,
not
us at Silverstone Gardening. We want to.
Good to hear.
we work hard here.
Yeah. So and let's face it, Australia does have a wide range of temperatures that we have to deal with. I mean, I was just in Darwin last week.
Oh wow,
it's hot. Not just does it just get hot up there; it gets hot and humid as well. Now that's a big thing for us because we've got to have the waterproof ratings there too. So for us, it's IPX4 for all the tools, waterproof rating, so you can use it, when it's raining or there's no problems there. But also the batteries themselves are IPX5, which is a heavier grade again, heavier standards. So which is good. Allows operators to use them in a wider range of conditions, and you're not restricted to any of the shortfalls in the product.
So is the battery totally encased? There's another brand, a very popular brand. We're not going to mention them or anything, but a lot of people might have seen that their batteries have openings in them, and you can kind of see into where the cells are. I think the cells are covered in something. I don't know. But are these batteries, I can see on here, they're in their spot. Actually, I've got here we go.
Yes, that's them.
So are these batteries totally encased? Is there
They're
any?
sealed, yes.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So here's the thing then, because a lot of brands have that opening to help the cooling, and obviously sealing them would keep some temperature in, but you're obviously running colder to start with. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
learning stuff.
also to keep moisture out, clearly.
People, if you've been enjoying this Makers Month series, we're in the second half of it now. If you've been loving that, the reality is that has only been able to happen or been able to be produced because of the Patreons. You may not know this, but the work that goes behind the scenes is insane. We've been doing sort of 11 p.m., 12 p.m. finishes pretty much every day since this series started, and a little bit before that, to be honest, as well. And here's the thing, I'm not editing these podcasts at all. We have an editor now. So it's just a sheer amount of work. If you're enjoying this and you've been listening to them, you know we're not getting paid by the brands. This is trying to be as unbiased as possible. And so, people, if you like this series, jump on the Patreon. We need that support because at the end of the series, there won't be anything left, any money left. So going forward, we need some of that support. So people, jump on if you're enjoying it. Become a patron. You become $5 a month, or you can give $5 a month, or $16.50. Now, if you say that's not within my means, totally fine. No judgment, no pressure. But if it's within your means and you are enjoying it, then go for that. Now, a way that you can support without the money is to share on social media. Help us get more people who listen, more people who watch. And anyways, I want to say thank you to those patrons because honestly, I can't handle too many more of these late nights. So thanks for supporting and paying for that editor. Anyways, let's get back in the podcast. Back into the battery stuff, though, here's another thing that's interesting. If you look at the price point, right, a lot of people will just go, okay, $726 for this battery, or $799 including GST. That will turn some people off. What, though, is the cycle? You said 3,000 cycles. What is a normal, not mentioning brands or anything, but what would you normally expect from a battery?
Yeah, I mean, our claims are up to 10 times the lifespan of competitor batteries, but some are better than others out there, no question. But to be honest, even if it's twice, it's only twice the result of a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's still better value for money because you're buying several different batteries over the same lifespan a Crest Cyberpack delivers.
Yep.
And that's the key.
What testing do you do to the batteries? How do you know 3,000 cycles? You just sit them on a machine that charges them and decharges them 3,000 times?
So there is in-house testing that takes place. We belong to the Positech group, which has a lot of experience in this. I might also add that Crest has never made a combustion engine as well. It's been electric motors all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just the actual testing we do; it's also the heritage that we have. We've all our R&D has just been solely focused on developing battery technology or electrical
mm-hmm.
motors. So, yeah.
And so the testing, does that include, so do you test them on a machine? Do you test them out in the field? I mean, I know that that's not really your role, but is there something that for people who are suspicious of a new brand, they want to know this stuff because they can't go talk to a friend who used it 3 years. And that's kind of the advantage that some of those more established brands, even if their stuff isn't good, word of mouth is such a powerful marketing tool. So, yeah, that's why I'm asking those questions.
Yeah, no, 100% right. And I think, you can do all the in-house testing you want, but the bottom line is it needs to be tested in the market. Now, I've mentioned before, Australia's probably got some of the harshest conditions in the world, to be honest. We've got dusty, hot, humid, cold conditions, depending what year or what location you are.
Mm-hmm.
All the things that, the outdoor power equipment,
doesn't
can become very abrasive very quickly. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we, even before we launched, for 12 months, we had product being tested in this market. We researched the market very heavily too to understand the needs of commercial users out there, from, your 1 to 2 man crews right up to your big facilities managers that are running 3 to 4 crews in some cases, there's organisations out there running 20-man crews doing
Mm-hmm.
freeway roadsides, for
Yeah,
instance.
yeah, yeah, yep.
So we had some very good intel out there, the working conditions, how products are used. Obviously, we did have a fair bit of intel from the market in any case, but they gave us great learnings. And one of the big things too, I might add, Luke, was in spite of the technology that we claim and we back, the one big thing that we are very keen to get across to the market out there is the return on investment. So if you're using outdoor power equipment as a tool of trade, as you can imagine, you want the most efficiency you can out of that product. So it's not just about how productive it is. It's also the actual return you're making on it, and that includes the cost of life as well. So that's where we feel we have a unique position in the market, and that's where we believe that it'll be a very attractive proposition to those who use it as a tool of trade.
I feel like, you tell me, is 800 cycles, it's coming to my head, but is 800 cycles about normal for a more higher end or
Yeah, and look, it can range from 300 up to maybe 1,500 cycles. But
right.
yeah, I think that's about what you said is about the mark. That's about the average.
I don't know if I'm referring to any specific brand I've already had on because I've had so many conversations on this series so far. But yeah, so if you are talking a battery that was half the price, but only a quarter of the cycles, it's twice as expensive per cycle. Yeah, in that sort of sense. So, and I don't think for the size of the battery, I don't know. I don't know what the pricing is on the rest of them off the top of my head, but some of them, that's the kind of stuff that's turning people off. I put a post, which you saw. We reviewed it very briefly beforehand. And I asked people on Lawnmower Contractors Australia what their opinions were on Crest and if anyone had used it. And obviously, only being 4 weeks old, it's kind of too soon for most people to comment, I believe. So a lot of the who might have bought it or used it, whatever, for them to fairly comment on it. But what was fascinating was there was so much suspicion about the warranty or about how expensive everything was. And I mean, I'm not affiliated with any brand, right? And I'm just curious to know. And I'm not here to tell anyone who commented that they shouldn't be suspicious. You said that yourself at the beginning. It's like, you've got to earn their trust. I wonder if, we will have the same suspicions in 8 years. It's just an interesting thing. It's a difficult position for you to be in, bringing something new, right?
Absolutely. And you're dead right. I mean, and I think particularly commercial users are right to be suspicious too. Not of ourselves clearly, but they have been burnt before in the market, and I think if you make the wrong decision, particularly when it comes to product as a business, it can hurt your business a hell of a lot. So I think it's important that we have plenty of active trials out there with plenty of commercial organisations right now. We continue to run Crest events across the country, again, to validate our claims and make sure that the product's fit for purpose. I mean, we want the commercial landscaper market out there to embrace the program, and we think they will, and the signs are very good so far. But I might just also add, even going back to the actual technology around the batteries, just to put it clear, to put it in perspective, the actual power that's being delivered out of one of those Cyberpack batteries, it's 3.2 kilowatts or 4.3 horsepower. Now, that's more than twice the power of that's being delivered out of those Cyberpacks to the powerhead than a lot of the other competitors out there. So
right. So does that mean that the stats? So if you have typically, here's my understanding of batteries. Let's say a drill, right? If I've got an impact driver, let's say a rattle gun, I've got to get some lawnmower blades off, and I've got my tiny little 1 amp hour, yes, and it's not budging, and I chuck a 6 amp hour on, it moves. right? There's something about, so I know roughly that there is more power with more amp hours. It's something to do with the number of cells, and I don't know too much. You would think after all these podcasts I'd be an expert, but I'm not. I don't. Some people listening to this are like, you idiot, you should know this by now. But what you're saying is that it's not. So what I'm getting at is the same drill with a different battery actually performs better. And so if you look at the stat of the drill and you just compare two drills from different brands, whoever they are, let's say, well, it doesn't even matter, but two different brands, and you go, well, this one's got this much Newton meters and this one's got this much Newton meters of torque, and I'm going to get that one. And then you buy the cheap battery, you sort of undersold yourself, right?
That's
And
exactly right.
We've talked about this before. You may not be aware of this, but there's a YouTuber named Project Farm, and I don't know if you've ever watched their stuff. Have you seen any of this stuff before?
I can't say I have. I've got to be honest, Luke.
It sounds like it when you're next on holiday and you've got some free time. It might be the type of thing you love. It's just it's the weird nook of YouTube that you never thought would be successful, but we all kind of love. And it's this guy who tests random everything. He tests winches and knife sharpeners and angle grinders and tape measures and puts them all together. Very rigorous, very good testing. And if you love your gear, you just love watching his videos because it's just like, oh, this chainsaw cuts faster than that one and this knife sharpener does it better. He did a video where he got a Milwaukee angle grinder. And just mention the brand because that's the one on there. And he got 4 or 5 rip-off batteries to go in the Milwaukee. And some of them made the tool look like a kid's toy. Like some of them just, and I didn't realize how much of a difference that makes. So tell me about that from your perspective then.
Absolutely. And look, I think just internally, we can prove that ourselves. I mean, like I said, we do have a prosumer range, which is more for your aspirational residential user, as I said before. But if you were to put one of those batteries into a commercial tool, one of our commercial tools or skins, as they're probably more commonly known in the market, you wouldn't get the performance out of it that you do with a Cyberpack battery. And it goes along the same lines as you've pointed out.
So does that mean that if you have, so I'll put the screen back up again and have a look at some tools. Where would we go? Here we go. So you would say 60 volt, what do you call it, a lime trimmer as well?
Yes.
Right. Is that meaning that, because voltage doesn't really, it's weird. It kind of doesn't really mean anything, does it? Like everybody has it and they kind of, it's like 82 volt doesn't necessarily mean it's better than 18 volt. It's
voltage varies from system to system. Obviously, different brands have different platforms that they use. It's just that we chose 60 volt because it works better with what we're bringing to market in the technology stakes. So, but yes, to your point, if you were to put those lesser batteries or let's say prosumer batteries into a commercial. The commercial range, you certainly wouldn't get the performance. They'd still operate fine, but when you want that 4.3 horsepower being delivered, it's not going to deliver that 4.3 horsepower. You need the Cyberpack range for that.
So if I look at 1.2 kilowatt delivery output power for the commercial 60 volt 42 line trimmer tool only. Tool only was stupid. Why did you read that out? Anyway, so 1.2 kilowatt output of power. If another brand, and I don't have any in mind, but if another brand had also 1.2 kilowatts, but the battery was different, would it actually be is that the real marker of power? I'm clueless on this.
Well, yeah, so that's power from the tool. So I think, that's probably in product to simplify it a little bit more. So we even looked at, say, the chainsaw. Now, the chainsaw delivers 24, and put it in terms that probably a lot more of your audience would understand, 24 meters a second in chain speed. Now, that's at the top echelon. And just remember, with all battery products, not just ours, all battery products, you've got far more torque than you do in petrol.
Yeah.
So the performance is always going to be better in that respect.
Well,
sorry.
you can go. You go.
I was just going to mention one final one, which probably proves it more than anything else, is the battery backpack blower. Now, the
Right.
blowers are notoriously always, when it comes to battery, are always the ones that get questioned because
Yes.
they don't deliver the power, or they, obviously they deplete the battery a lot quicker.
Very fast. Yep.
Just to, I suppose, underline the power that's being delivered out of the cyber pack factories. Basically, you're getting 24 cubic meters a minute in air volume out of the tube. Now, for those who use blowers, many think it's to do with the airspeed. It's not. The productivity comes from the volume of the air that's being delivered out of the tube.
Yep.
But that's as
Yep.
good as a 70, 80 cc backpack blower,
Yeah.
to put it in perspective. And that's coming out of a battery blower.
So I'm just thinking about this from I'll go back to the line trimmer, and then we'll talk about the that was the line trimmer. Here it is. Then we'll talk about the battery blower, because the reason why I'm asking is there's so many different numbers that these battery manufacturers put on stuff, and a lot of people want to be able to look at essentially a spreadsheet and go, this is 1.2 kilowatts, this is 1.19 kilowatts, so this one's slightly better. In the way that it would have been before is like you said, horsepower or cc, right? This is a 27 cc, this is a whatever it is cc. Is the kilowatt, because what confuses me as someone who doesn't know much is that you can have the same drill with a different battery, and it's almost like the stats on the drill are irrelevant if the battery sucks. So I'm trying to get to the point is, if somebody else had let's say they had a whip snipper that was 2 kilowatts, right? And you go, that's amazing, but it had a rubbish battery. Would it perform the same as a 1.2 kilowatt with an amazing battery? That's the lesson I'm trying to learn.
I think the easiest way to answer that one would be the spec battery with the spec tool delivers the actual kilowatt output that you're referring to.
Right.
Because anything else other than that, you're probably undermining what the product's designed for too.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But it's a fair point you raise.
It just gets confusing. Like for
it
people,
does, yeah.
I feel like maybe in 5 years we'll all understand it. And but for me, I'm a bit stuck. When I look at the blowers, the other thing about blowers is people talk about CFM, and then they talk about cubic meters per hour, and then Newton meters, airspeed. Oh my goodness, I'm,
brave new world. Yeah,
it is. But you're saying a 70, 80 cc backpack blower.
Yep.
Tim the Lawnmower Man's been using this a lot in his videos. I didn't ask him how it was. Idiot, Luke. Why didn't you say that? It looks interesting.
To me, Luke, it's probably what demonstrates the power better than anything is the actual backpack blower, no question. Mm-hmm. And to achieve that sort of result out of that product, I mean, that gives the whole range credibility. And let's face it, most out there, if they've got a fleet of tools, will definitely need a blower of some sort out there
100%.
to clean up the job at the ends or whatever. But it's an important tool that everyone basically uses, and it needs to be highly productive so you can move to the next job fairly quickly.
So the blower itself is actually quite competitive. Like if you're looking at it's $850 for those who are price wise. If those who are listening, if you're talking about petrol's going to cost more than that. Then you start the battery on top. And we talked about this with many battery manufacturers, that you are buying the fuel. Well, in a sense, you're paying for the fuel up front by buying the battery, because although the actual fuel is electricity, you are getting a much cheaper charge time from the electricity than the fuel. So we've covered that many times, and people really should understand that as well. So I would sort of guess that this is overall, once you've gone after a couple of years, this is actually a very competitive price point for a battery blower compared to a petrol option.
It is, and look, notwithstanding that, yes, the batteries, as we mentioned, or cyber packs as we refer to them, the 4 and 11 amp hour, and be it the 30 amp charger or the cyber tank, which is They're both, it's effectively a fuel tank. That's 100%. But the key thing with this is the cost of life, and I keep coming back to this return on investment. So, based on the research and the surveys we did in market of a typical fleet that a contractor or 3 to 4 man crew would be using, in essence, it works out to basically $5,600 per year per crew in savings. So that's based on your average fuel consumption, your average petrol fleet that they're running, and the equivalent in Crest as a comparison. So, and that's what as part of the trial process, that's what we've asked, don't just take our word for it, compare it to your own fuel usage on your existing fleet and do the numbers. Because, when you run that saving over one crew per year, imagine if you've got 10 crews or 20 crews as a landscaping organisation. That's huge savings to be made.
I do feel like that's where I want to go back to this. You mentioned the cyber tank, and we're kind of jumping around in different places because there's so many interesting angles to take this from. I sent you this run sheet for those who are unaware. Every brand I've talked to, I've been sending some form of run sheet so that people can be ready with stats and things like that. And this is all over the shop. This isn't following the guide, but the cyber tank that's it there. Is that the one, or is there another one further down?
No, that was it up there. So you've got the two charging systems there. So the 30 amp charger, which is more designed for your typical 1 to 2 man crew, and then the cyber tank, which you have up there now. That's designed for your heavy duty use, or your 3 to 4 man crew. Typically, it doesn't mean a 1 to 2 man crew can't use it. Possibly overkill, but the beauty of it is that you can take that in the back of a truck, or secure it in the back of a truck, and go from site to site. If you've got mobile sites that you need to maintain, it's a fantastic solution, because out of that you'll get 10 11 amp hour batteries charged, or 22 4 amp hour batteries. So I don't know anyone that would use all of that power in one day. But
So as somebody who, and the most employees I've had in one hit is somewhere around 12, 13 or something like that. And managing people at that size is so difficult. And so there's these stats that you cannot put on a spreadsheet. And here's some of this is what this is curious. And now we're resizing our business, so we're changing some things up. So I don't have that many employees now, but a year and two ago when we had the business of that size, one thing that happened was there was an employee who was filling up the oil for the two-stroke, right? And he was filling up two at the same time. Honest person, honest mistake, put double oil in one canister and no oil in the next canister. And it damaged and cost us about $1,500 in damage, because then what happens is everybody is just trusting that it's mixed right. No one pays attention to how dark one of them is and how light the other one is, because the other time is that sometimes you use different oils and some are colored, and you get the idea, right? You've been in the industry for 18 years. That's the kind of stuff. As somebody who's had a bigger crew in the past, you look at something like that and you go, it's expensive, yeah. But the way that I would probably get around it personally, not that I've used it, I can't vouch for anything, but if it was going to be a good fit, finance it, right? And then I've got a week of charges, because the one of the things that I'm nervous about is if I stay with petrol, right, which I think just about everyone's planning to move away at some stage, you keep having these issues where people don't maintain it properly. They don't hit the spark arrestor out, and all of a sudden it clogs up, and they're halfway through a job and they're wondering why it sucks. The air filter's not being taken out. You're doing dusty jobs, and all of a sudden the mower's not running right. Things are running slower. This is the stuff that happens, people. If you've never had crews, if you're never interested in, then this probably isn't for you, this cyber tank. But if you do have crews, I know what it's like having. I had a guy who was mowing a lawn, and I rocked up to the job I can't remember what I was doing. I rocked up to the job, and the mower was like running real rough, and I was like, man, like that's real bad. And he was like, yeah, I don't know. And I just took the air filter off, as not when the blades are running, kicking up some dust, just took it off, and immediately it's running great. And I said to him, I was like, that's probably cost you 20 minutes today in time. And he's like, yeah. And he was like, so thankful that was fixed. But, obviously we've cleaned the air filter. I didn't let them run without it. But it's stuff like that if you've never had team members, if you've been doing it on your own, you know that stuff. You know when you pour the oil and you go, that's the wrong color. Did I forget to put oh, I did. Whoops. And you pour it out, you put some new stuff in. That doesn't happen with employees. Having a big battery pack like this, yeah, it's 15 grand, but my fuel bill was massive too. Like it's kind of, that's the world it's designed for, right?
100%. And look, that's the thing that quite often gets forgotten, to be honest with you. Yeah, let's face it, in this industry, the landscapers out there quite often have transient labour. Everyone's got their own way of doing things. The battery program or the cyber system here, it forces you to do it just one way. There's no other way you can charge a battery. It needs to be that way. So it removes all those challenges that you just referred to. And the risk of failure, as you said, dry fuel seizures are commonplace in our industry for the reasons you just mentioned. But that comes at a cost to business. So if you can remove all that burden, all of a sudden this becomes a very attractive proposition. Because we've got to have happy staff too, not to mention emissions, vibration, mixing fuel, as you said, all of that is not an issue. And noise is the big one.
Well, I can see this. Like the other thing, I'll talk to people who are solo, right? I've seen some people go, well, my fuel costs are not very high. I can totally understand there's a certain person this is not for. This is not for everybody. But we were spending $3,000 to $4,000 a month on fuel, like at that period of time. And this is when fuel was cheaper, like, $1.60 or something like that. It was 70 or something, not the $2.10 or whatever it was I paid for it yesterday. So it's kind of the point I'm trying to get across here is when I put this post up, there were people who were suspicious. And again, I don't charge people to come on. I'm not affiliated at all. There's no money changing hands in this. I'm just verbally processing my curiosity on this, that if I had a crew of 10, again, and especially work out in the middle of nowhere, they forget to put batteries on charge. If you had 15 battery chargers at your warehouse and every night everybody had put batteries on, I bet you I'd come back and only 3 would be on charge. I bet you. Yeah. Like, that's what would happen. Having this on, you could just say at the end of the night, plug this in at the warehouse, or once a week. I don't know how much you'd need to do it. Every Friday you plug this in over the weekend, and then what would happen? They wouldn't plug it in either.
It's a fair point. It's a good point you raised, Lee. And just to reiterate, you can't deplete a battery faster than you can charge it. So you're never going to run out of power. I suppose just for your audience benefit there's 3 charging sockets on that cyber tank too. There's the 2 that you can see there, and then on the very right there up the back, there's another socket, 4 amp hour socket there on the right there. So you can have all those running at the same time. There's no problems. And then you've got that flash socket there where you can see the on the left. Yeah, see the double charge there.
Yep.
Basically that's where you can get that 8-minute charge on a 11 amp or 4 amp hour battery.
Now, so look, that's the cyber tank. Now, again, you told me before, but we talked about so many numbers. Can you repeat it again? How many charges? So this big boy here. Mm-hmm. So describe. There's ones that look like this is disrespectful. Sorry, okay. It looks like a really thick chopping board with a handle on it.
That's the 11 amp hour battery. So that's your backpack battery.
Sorry. A better way, it looks like an elongated briefcase. That's what I should have said. Well, much more respectful.
That's correct.
But it's got a nice big handle on it, a girthy handle you can pull on and off. And so how many amp hours, as I was stumbling into that, you said?
11 amp hours for the backpack battery there, and that's good for 3,000 cycles.
And the 4 amp hour is this little one on the side, right?
Correct, and that's also good for 3,000 cycles.
How many... so you said this before, but let's just repeat again. How many 11 amps can get charged off this cyber tank, and how many
get at least
4
10
amps
out of the cyber tank, and you can get 22 of the 4 amp hour out of the cyber tank.
Now, the next question, which I should have asked ages ago when we're talking about the blower, but out of this 60 volt backpack blower, so it's got the power. What is the runtime with the 11 amp on the back?
Very good question. So this is the one that probably comes under more debate over everything with any battery
Mm-hmm.
range out there. The one thing that's a really good feature on the Crest battery range out there is all of the products. Actually, not all of the products. The chainsaw doesn't, obviously, but all the products other than that have a variable speed, not variable speeds. They've got the step up speed function, so you can
Mm-hmm.
run it at low speed. It's got 4 speed settings on the blower, for instance.
Yep.
So if you're running, there's a lot of operational applications that you'd simply use the lower speed on, which would
Yep.
give you more power. That would give you probably 40 plus minutes of power.
Oh wow. Yep.
If you're running it at the top speed, it may only give you 25 minutes. So that's the thing. You've got to really work out what suits your application.
What I've said in the past is my blower that I use, handheld one, different brand. I'm not entirely happy with it, to be fair, but it's fine. It's a good blower. That has a 25-minute full berries runtime.
Yeah.
That actually lasts me 80, 90% for a full, like 80, 90% of my work days, it'll last me a full day. And a lot of those days I'm only using half. And the reason is that a lot of my jobs are small jobs and I don't need to blast everything, right? And so if you take out an 8-hour day, a lot of it is travel time if you're doing small, commercial jobs in between places. So I guess the real backpack thing would be car parks, large commercial facilities like schools, for example. But even at the school that we do, I would say it would only take 10 minutes to blow it down. Even though it's 17,000 square meters of lawn, there's actually not that much path, to be fair.
Yeah, and that's a key point, because you're quite right with traditional battery blowers out there. What's typical use? The one thing I would say is if you're getting higher productivity out of a product, obviously your operational time on site is going to be less, isn't it? Because you're doing things a lot quicker than you would be. And that's my point, going back to the actual volume output delivered by the blower. It is a highly productive unit out there. So you're actually able to do more in less time, which is probably a significant advantage over a lot of other options out there.
And you guys are doing a lot of demos. I've seen videos and photos online of trailers, Crest trailers going around, and people will be able to get their hands on it and actually try it out for themselves.
So we have many active trials out there even now. There's plenty of them across the country happening right now with council, with facilities managers, for contractors, landscapers. So. And there's 2 reasons for that. Going right back to the start of our conversation, we want people to understand that what we're saying can be delivered and is being delivered, but we want them to also, we need to gain their trust too. So hopefully when they're doing a trial in their own time, in their own operational space, they can educate themselves on what the range can deliver. The second one is, obviously, if it can do that, it's actually going to, because let's face it, this industry is quite viral. It's actually going to help, get the name out there too, isn't it? Yep. So if it works, just as it's a risky strategy, because if it doesn't work, it gets out there pretty quickly.
Yes, it does. Probably faster.
That's the thing. But we are exceptionally confident that this will do everything it says. We know it's been released in Europe and the States from last year. So we've had a little bit of experience already around the world, and it's been received very well. So we're confident it'll do the same thing here. And the only way to do that is to get it to the people who use the product.
When I talked with Tim, one thing he said very briefly was that the normal charger, which is
30 amp. Yep.
Yes, let me try and get it up. I've lost it. Is that it?
No, up there. Go up a little bit.
There we go. Scroll right past it. Now, is that double-sided? 2 sides on that charger?
Yes, dual port charger, yes.
Awesome. So what he said about this is that it was surprisingly fast, how quick. Now, some other people in the comments on my post, and again, we're not criticizing anybody or got any shots at anybody, but I don't understand this either. They're kind of like, how does it work so fast, even if it's just a normal? And the price on this is, it's still $1,000, right? So it is fast. But what Tim said to me was the 8 amp hour battery. I think he said it was 9 minutes. And again, I have to talk about Tim because he's the only person I've been able to talk to who's actually used it. But that's nuts fast, right?
Yeah,
like 45 minutes is like normal for, or even fast. An hour might be normal.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. So even the 30 amp charger is still what we regard as the fastest on the market. The 4 amp hour battery, that will charge from fully empty to fully charged in 12 minutes, or the 11 amp hour battery, which is the backpack battery there, that'll from fully depleted to full charge in 25 minutes on that charging system there.
Again, so I feel like a lot of operators, what they're going to say is, solar operators, they might go, here's the criticism I think they will say. It's a lot of money and I charge my stuff at night anyway. But I feel that, again, as someone who's had crews who forget to put things on charge, oh my goodness, like I see the value, right? Yeah. For employees. Now, for me, I don't forget to put things on charge because it's my business and you're so invested, and you can definitely you wear the mistakes as well. So if I make a mistake in my business, I'm the one that wears it. If my employee makes a mistake in the business, I'm kind of the one who still wears it. There's not the same feeling. So yeah, I mean, but you said 12 minutes and Tim said 9, I believe.
Well,
so
it may not have been fully charged, so but
fully
that would
depleted.
Be more like 80%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course. All right, so there you go. So yeah, it's super interesting. Man.
To put it in perspective,
you go.
If I may, I'm sorry. But with that charging system, I think you raised it before. I mean, with that charging system, a couple of Cyberpack batteries and a full range of tools, you're looking at $12,000-$14,000. And you're right, that sounds expensive. But if you've got all the tools that you can do your job, you're getting the 5-year commercial warranty on the products out there. And 8 years on the battery.
Okay, so the skins are 5 years.
5-year commercial warranty.
And the batteries are 8 years.
On the battery.
Yep. So you keep going on. I was clarifying.
Yeah, I mean, even that sounds at $14,000. That's an investment. But if it's going to get you that lifespan, and with a 1 to 2 man crew, which is this system's obviously designed for, I mean, that I think the calculations on the ROI for that was in excess of $2,000 per year per crew. That's still a saving. And it depends. Every crew is different on their petrol consumption, their fleet. It might be higher, it might be less, but it's still a saving on petrol at the moment. And that includes the cost of the asset on finance versus only the operational costs on fuel. So we're not even
you've included finance in that as well.
Yeah,
because that's the other thing that I think a lot of people don't. They will so for me again. So we have a BP card, right? I'm advertising BP. It's just the closest fuel station to our warehouse, right? And every car's got a BP card, and so all the employees just pay like that, right? And then we get the bill, and you got to pay it, right? So it's kind of, obviously the cars are still fuel and diesel, blah, blah, but it's kind of, it's the same sort of mode by financing it, by having a monthly payment. So for the $15,000 thing, probably not for the $1,000 charger, unless you're buying, 20 things at once. But, the finance stuff, finance is something that some people get really turned off. If you do it right, it's actually a very powerful tool. You just got to do it right. It's like using a chainsaw. Like if you do it right, it's a great tool. If you do it wrong, you're going to lose your leg. So, doesn't mean you shouldn't use chainsaws kind of thing. So it's an option. There you go.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of contractors use it too. You're right.
I reckon, so let's talk about this warranty stuff, right? Because here's the thing about warranty. A warranty, it can have all the little fine prints. I haven't read your warranty, but what kind of stuff are you protected for in the warranty, and what are you not protected for? Right? You go.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely, and it's a fair point. I mean, anyone who's tried the products would know, that they're both the skins or the tools and the batteries or cyber packs are very well made. They're very durable and robust. Now, any supplier's warranty will cover manufacturer issues, and that is all in the warranty. But wear and tear clearly isn't, because wear and tear is not a manufacturing fault.
So what would count as wear and tear? Like just having it sliding around the back of the ute, because usage is kind of wear and tear, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you get to handle the products and see the products, you'll see they're fairly durable in any case. So they're built to last. But if you're running over a battery, for instance, I wouldn't say that's a claimable thing, or tool for that matter. So I think it's a lot of common sense is here, but we'll back the warranty. I mean, we can't. The worst thing we can do if there's a warranty issue and it is a manufacturing fault, and we don't deliver on it as a new brand, we're very exposed. So
yes, true.
And let's face it, with the market we're chasing, which is that commercial market, our promise is everything. You don't deliver on a promise, you can create waves. So, look, I think the good thing with us, though, is we only distribute our products through a specialist dealer network too. So we're not going into any other channel. And the reason we're doing that is our dealers are there to support the customer out there. So hopefully providing quick turnaround, parts support, because that's everything to a professional.
Right. You're right. With the reputation online as well, like $1,000, battery charger or a $700 trimmer or something like that, for you guys, probably not worth haggling over if it's obviously blatant abuse. But I totally understand that sentiment you're coming at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure you probably haven't had any warranty claims in 4 weeks.
Not at this stage, no.
Yeah, it'd be a bad omen if you had.
I would be worried if we had. So, yes.
Let's talk about this lawnmower. What kind of feedback are you getting from this? First thing I'd like to say is I think it looks good. It looks clean. There's something about it. I don't know. It's just my opinion. Nobody really cares about my opinion too much.
The interesting thing with and you're quite right. I spoke about the durability and just look at the product. I mean, that is built to last. That product, it's a steel deck. It's not a polymer deck as a lot of your audience would be familiar with battery walk behinds. Mm-hmm. It has a variable speed adjustment on it too. So, I mean, this thing, it's incredible the power it delivers. You can track at 6.4 Ks an hour. Now, at that speed, you're basically almost running behind it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, especially me. I'm pretty flipping slow.
You might want to do that, Luke. I'm not sure.
There we go. Yeah. Set it as my person. I'm not even mowing. I'm just running behind it as my pacemaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got the 2 power settings on there too, so which will change obviously the blade speed and lower the consumption. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the mowing, surprisingly enough, you can do on that lower power setting, and that just on the inside of the module there, you'll see that lever. That lever there is your actual tracking adjustment, so that your speed adjustment for tracking. So you can alter that on the go.
Yep.
Which is a nice thing to have. It's a 3-in-1, so you can mulch, rear discharge, or collect. So, no, it's an impressive, based on all the trials and we've seen so far, it's been very well received.
One of the things that people will talk about that happens a lot with battery gear that's brought over from America, or any mower that's brought over from America or designed for Europe, where they're cutting cool season grasses higher, is the height of cut. I don't think I noticed any height of cut numbers on here. Do you know what it goes down to off the top of your head?
Yeah, so for us, we know it's an issue at this stage. We don't think it is one that we want to try and get the cut down to a lower 20 mil or even lower if we can.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, we don't have that solution here. So, but I think it'll be very serviceable in what it does at the moment. We do have a whole new roadmap of product coming out next year, and that's one of our intentions, is to deliver a lower cutting height on the mowers, and particularly in WA. I think you raised before too. They like to cut a lot lower over there, clearly.
Well, typically we're cutting with a cylinder mower when we're cutting lower, but we still have clients like, let's say, for me, if I'm using my rotary mower, it's on a client that's not as highly intensely cared for. We don't care about them as a person. No, it's like they're on a lower end package for us, and so we need to cut it higher to compensate for the lack of product application. Or it's an access thing, and one of the things that happens if you can't fit a big cylinder mower out the back, but you can get your 21-inch self-propelled out the back, you kind of want to copy as much as possible the height. So if you're cutting at 15 mil out the front, 20 mil at the back is very respectable. But going to 30 mil, it kind of doesn't feel cut to the client. Do you know what the height of cut is off the top of your head again?
Yeah, it's down to 25 mil, but the thing is we want to get lower than that because we know we like to cut lower out in this market. So,
well, 25 is still somewhat respectable. It's not as high as some of the other. I think there's some petrol mowers out there that have come from America that you can buy, not naming any brands, but I believe 30 mil is as low as they go. And it's just that in America, they don't cut like 30 mil is insane. Like we talked about Ben Sims from Lawn Tips. His most popular video is him cutting his ryegrass down to 10 millimeters. 2 million people watch that. And I think it's because a lot of the Americans are like, what the hell are you doing? Who cuts that low? But us in Australia, we're like, yeah, go for it,
Yeah.
So is there blade? Sorry, you go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add, I mean, I mentioned it just before, we have over 20 products coming to market next year, 20 new products that fit this battery platform, the Cyber Pack battery platform.
Wow.
So, and what we're hoping is that one of those will actually provide a lower cutting height for us. Interestingly enough, as you know, over in Europe and the States, they mow a lot higher over there for whatever reason. We tend to like to scalp the grass out here. So, as a new brand of market, we've got to make sure that we're delivering the right products to fit this market. We can't just rely on what's right overseas.
One of the things that we can do, so I've got a Hustler stand-on mower with blade spacers on it, right? And I have adjusted the deck height minimally, but, you can lower it down a little bit on those stand-on units, or some stand-on units. Yeah. Is there any possibility for somebody to develop a different type of blade, or maybe there is a blade that will fit the Crest? You know how some blades have steps in them? They're not entirely flat.
Yeah, so you'll notice there's 4 different blade types that you can already fit on here. So if you go down the page, there's a low lift, medium lift. Oh, no, you're up. You're where you were. High lift and gated.
4 different types. Yes, I see.
Yep. So, and we carry those. Our dealers will carry those too. So, depending on what the application is, the operator can certainly customize what suits them.
And maybe if they want to do something that would not be recommended by the general manager of Crest, but could potentially work, maybe they should give it a try. I'm not saying it all, but you know what we're doing.
Again, I'll go back to what I said before. The spec product is probably the best performing setup. So it's important to know that.
Yes, but we're 18 years in the industry. Everyone tries stuff,
Yes.
And then it goes wrong, and we're coming to your warranty claims.
Excellent. We don't want that drama. That's right.
Can we talk about the stuff that's coming out next year? I'm going to push you on it.
Yes.
So, what is the stuff that you're wanting to release next year? 20 products. Are they extensions on what you already have? Are they ride-on lawnmowers? Do you have a deep fryer so I can cook my lunch halfway through the day? Something like that.
Not it yet, but we're working on things. But look, Luke, we've got a number of. We released a range this year, knowing that it was possibly not wide enough, but we also knew what was coming, so we were fairly confident we could fill those missing gaps fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So there'll be a pole saw, high reach hedge trimmer, articulated hedge trimmer. There'll be front motor trimmers and brush cutters with the motor at the head.
Motors on the head. Yep.
Yeah, carbon fibre shaft to take the weight out of them. There'll be hopefully another walk behind mower that we'll be able to look at. So there's plenty of products. A handheld commercial blower will be part of the range. There's plenty to like with a multi-tool is always a big one too.
Fantastic.
So there's a commercial multi-tool coming out next year as well. So,
is there any possibility for stand-on or ride-on lawnmowers?
Watch this space. There's something in the works which I think will be a big impact in this market. So I can't say too much at this stage, but it will be a game changer in this market, no question.
One of the things as well that I've noticed, and I guess it's because there isn't much demand for these products, but they're super helpful. Things like scarifiers, aerators. Is there a possibility for those more niche turf care products to be on the Crest platform?
The beauty of Crest is our speed to market is very quick, and the senior management has made it very clear if there's a need, they can look at it and they can look at filling it. So, we've just got to present the business case. And for instance, there's a curve shaft edger. Yeah, we've got the dedicated straight shaft edger at the moment, but there's also a curve shaft option, which is available in America at the moment. But we could potentially make it available here if there was a need, and we'll possibly bring it out as one of the attachments in the multi-tool as well. So, I mean, there's things like that are already being designed that might not be right for this market, but they're certainly happening overseas. And likewise, we know we'll get the opportunity to do that for our market as well, to find those products that we can present a business case on and deliver.
Because what I see, there's a couple of things. Three things that come in mind. The first is a walk behind aerator. You don't actually use them for that long typically, right? There's a bit of force needing to be driven into the ground, but a lot of it is the weight and stuff like that. And I'm surprised that as far as I'm aware, there are no battery walk behind aerators. And it's a fascinating thing because I feel like the battery runtime is not as crucial, you know what I mean? And for a commercial one, they're $6,000 to $10,000 starting range,
Yeah. Well, I know, for instance, I've seen battery snowblowers too, so it's not that far away from what you're talking about, that specialty turf product. So, I mean, look, all options are on the table. And again, if there's a gap there and there's a business case and a demand, we can fill it. So, and the turnaround that's the beauty of it. The turnaround is not that great.
Yeah, not that great as in not that long. So
not long. No, it's
not that great. It could be determined. Yeah. Turnaround's horrible. It's not that great. No. 75 years, we might have something.
Yes, correct.
No, it's much faster is what you're saying. What on your lineup at the moment is the thing that's getting the most praise?
It's definitely the blower. No question. Having said that, obviously I'd like to endorse all the products clearly, but it's the blower seems to be getting the rave reviews. The walk behind that we just went through, I attended a trial in Darwin recently, and they were blown away by that. And the chainsaw, funnily enough, with that chain speed, it is a serious weapon out there. So I think you'll find some interesting just on the chainsaw too. So a top handle chainsaw and also the pole saw I mentioned before, and even a chainsaw with a longer bar next year as well. So there's 3 additional models coming with that chainsaw segment as well.
So I want to talk a little bit about you for a second, if we can. moving on from the equipment, because it must be a fascinating role to be at the head of an innovative brand new to the country. Doing like you must be very, my guess is, satisfied with the role and enjoying it and challenging. And what's it like being in your seat?
I must admit it's very exciting, Luke. Not without its challenges either, because I mean, let's face it, we're here for one reason. We're here to bring a solution to landscapers out there that perhaps they're not convinced on. But the beauty of it is getting the feedback at the end of the trials, and you're hearing all the endorsed statements that we've made, and it's backed up by that usage. So really pleased. And to be honest, when the opportunity arose, I mean, I possibly would never have left where I was had this opportunity not have arisen. It's not often you get to be part of something new to market, and with a vastly different technology to everyone else. And we can see the real change. The beauty of it is that mega trend of electrification. I mean, we have the real chance here to actually really drive the market out there, and it's being driven by government, as you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of interest that we've had already has come from government. So it's pleasing that we're seeing the take up as we are.
Do you feel like you personally were, like, has this been a plug-in, plug-out sort of thing where you're going from one business to another, like it's the same kind of thing, or has this been a completely different experience moving to a different brand, different culture, drive,
Yeah. It is a really good point you raise, because I think there's a lot of similarity in it doesn't matter what supplier you are in the industry, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but I think with Crest it is vastly new. Everything is new. Our business model is completely different to anything else that's out there. The technology we bring, as I said before, is unique, but it's exciting. It's really exciting. I mean, our most specific objective at the moment, though, is to win that trust. We win the trust in the market, and we've got a brand that will really leap ahead. And so we're just out there trying to make it work at the moment. And I think we've got huge opportunities ahead of us.
I find it interesting. I thought about this on the podcast. We talked about it briefly before. Is some brands, you can sense that they're what's the word? They're not as nimble, because of I can sense, I should say, that they're not as nimble because of how the conversations have gone with booking these people on the podcast. And it's nothing against the people; it's just a number of layers, So sometimes I can find someone's contact details pretty quickly. Sometimes you got to email this person who gets to that person, this person. I've emailed people who are marketing managers or something like that, and their range is so large that they don't touch they're great people. They don't touch any of the products we want to talk about. They pass it on to somebody else, and it's quite. It must be interesting going from, I don't want to speak for you, but my experience with Crest was and Sammy, who was organising this, quick to reply, easy, nimble, like great communication. Do you feel like you're just fast and, like you said, like give us feedback, talk about this, like is that what it's like?
Yeah, and I think we have to be too. Again, we're only a small organisation here in Australia, but we're rapidly growing. We all have to be hands-on. That goes for me, and I'd hate to think that I'm ever in a position where I'm removed from the market, because as a manager, you've got to understand what the major issues out there and where the opportunities are. So we need to have that interface with the users of our products and our dealers.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, by default we have to be, and I'd hate to think that we lose that too. I mean, one of the key assets of our business model, our go-to-market, is our business development managers that we have around the country, they're out there designed to assist the dealer in promoting the product and doing these trials with end users, whereas the typical models out there, sell into the dealer and then the dealer sells it to the market. We're with the dealer to help develop that relationship with the end users, which is important because it helps us understand what the needs are of those landscapers and commercial users too.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like you're more in touch with the end user, less layers on a personal level.
I'd like to think we are, but again, we're not listening to what the end users say, and the feedback has been mostly positive at this stage, which is fantastic. It looks like we're on the right track, and I feel as we get more and more trial events behind us, I think the proof will be in the pudding.
There's one more thing that we've got to talk about from your lineup, which you haven't touched on at all yet, which is your robotic lineup here. So
yes.
There are several options, but if we come down to the bottom here, 36,000 square meters.
Yes.
That's a lot. And the interesting thing that will happen from this audience, or where the audience would be interested, is the ability for them to, if I just zoom into the right section. So for those who are listening, I'll do explain very briefly. 3,000, 5,000, 7,000, 18,000, and 36,000 models, right, as in square meters that they can cover. This kind of sort of 8,000 to 36,000 range is going to be very interesting, or 7,000, I should say, 36,000 range is going to be very interesting for commercial contractors, I think, who are struggling for employees. And I think that the hardest thing to find in any industry, but especially in the gardening scene, is employees. And I welcome our overlords for one way of stating it, because what I think is happening in the industry, and I've talked about this many times on the podcast, I used to be afraid of the robot mower coming and stealing jobs 10 years ago, right? And then now as someone who employs people, I'm like, man, these could be fantastic options in, let's say large commercial operations, council operations, schools. And the reason why I say that is if those markets were fully staffed, right, then it actually is better for the rest of the industry because it's easy to find great talent. And maybe if you're not, maybe some people will be turning this off now because they only do 50 square meter lawns, 100 square meters, 200 square meters. Is that where you see this, though, going? Is this really who it's targeted to, or is it really an on-site, homeowner kind of big land operation?
Well, Luke, we have two segments within that robotic range that you've just shown. So we have what we call the mission robotic mowers, which is 3 models, which is, I guess, more your residential user. I'm sure there'll be some commercial applications as well. But then we have the megas, which is the KR233 and the KR236, and they're designed for your commercial application. And I can tell you we've had a lot of success overseas in golf courses, also in sports turf applications as well. A great feature of these is the directional mowing that you can achieve with them. So you can get those patterns on the actual lawn. So
how wide are they?
They vary depending on the model, but I'd say no more than a couple of feet. It's really something that's quite novel for the industry too, in terms of the RTK technology, which is real-time kinetic. I can never get this word right. Kinetomatic, which is to the power of the network. So, which means basically it's sending real-time accuracy data to make sure that the units are centimetre perfect in where they're mowing.
Right. Okay.
Removes the need for your on-site antenna that you may have seen with a lot of these wireless solutions, which does two things, a couple of things actually. It removes the crowded space, having an antenna on your lawn or on a site which doesn't seem very sightly. Secondly, it removes the cost for the customer. because they have to pay for that, of course, and obviously with the installation costs too. So I mean, it's a proven technology. So we're very excited about this because we think it's got huge applications out here. And going back to your point, you're 100% right. Labour is an issue. It doesn't matter what industry you're in at the moment. And getting around to a lot of these trials and talking to councils, facilities managers, contractors, landscapers, they all have the same issue. The labour, and they're foregoing jobs because they don't have the labour, or the labour
Yeah.
is not equipped to deal with some jobs. So what we've found is basically it's headcount neutral, meaning that whilst the robotic mower is running around, you can be attending to other jobs. So therefore,
Yeah,
you're getting that
exactly.
job done more quickly on site.
I was mowing a private school yesterday, and they had. So this is really annoying. Let me tell you a story. We have irrigation problems at this school. For many, many years, they had somebody, and before them had somebody else, and these were on-site full-time employees, and they moved to us as a contractor. And with all due respect to the people in the past, they didn't know irrigation very well. So they made some modifications and modified the modifications and blah, blah, blah. So the system just turned to rubbish, right?
Yeah.
And we've been fixing these. And you're an AFL fan by the looks of it, if I understood this correctly. Grand final day this year, neither of my teams were in, and I was completely booked out, being September. So I went to this school on grand final day to fix sprinklers, right? And this is a school holidays or public holiday, whatever it was. No one was at the school. And so I brought my daughter with me, and because I was fixing sprinklers around a playground. She was playing on the playground as I'm fixing sprinklers, having family time, right? That's the best I could do with that season. Got it all working, fine. 2 months later, a landscaper comes in to fix up some paving, cuts the wire to my section. It is all dead. So I went in to fix this stuff before the hot weather came. And actually, I shouldn't say it's all dead. It's mostly dead. My Robotic guy, I sent him in, and he did a patch job. So there's now a wire running and gaffer taped to the brand new paving so the kids don't trip on it, to the solenoid. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so we have to basically just either rip up the paving or completely cut out that section of Robotic and reinstall another solenoid. Anyways, what I'm getting at is it's the busiest time of the year. This is a private school. They got the money, and we cannot get to them for another 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Me and my irrigation guy. But it's just we can't make things work. And luckily, it's one of the least important parts. And because we got the temporary fix, it's kind of staying alive. But the front lawn is dead, right? So you drive in and out of school, it is dead. The oval, schmick, was striping up. Some people might have seen my video I posted yesterday. So look, whatever. But what I'm getting at is for some applications, it's not that. For some people who are out there, I should say, they don't have the busyness of work and they don't understand this. But for certain businesses that are in demand, they totally understand that if you could take someone off a mower and get them fixing sprinklers, or get them doing weed control, fertilization, you get them doing garden care, hedge trimming, chainsawing, things that, robots won't replace for a very, very long time, or maybe will never be legally allowed to replace because of the dangers. It just makes sense. And so, again, I kind of feel that maybe the misunderstanding of the Crest brand is because a lot of solo operators are out there couldn't justify, because who needs a charge arm when you charge overnight? Who needs a cyber pack when you're using 4 batteries? Who needs a robot mower when you do it all yourself? And maybe it's not actually targeted to those people.
Yeah, I think with the robotic mowers, and you're dead right. For years, robotic mowers have been seen as a threat, probably to people in the trade. The way you put it is exactly right. I think if it can offer productivity, it almost offers a whole new stream. It's modernising, a landscaper's business, to be quite honest. And if it's approached that way, I think there's some for landscapers, there's some good business to be had out there. But also the add-ons that come with that too.
Yes.
With your conventional business, if you're picking up clients with robotic mowers, then basically potentially you're also picking up all the other landscaping work that's available to you with those clients. I think that's the way it's heading, to be honest. I don't think, and to be honest, it's the fastest growing mower segment in this market, coming obviously off a low base, but there's plenty of players in the market now. Each has their
of course.
own unique, and that's probably one of the biggest changes in the industry in the last couple of years, is just how many other players there are in that robotic mower market. So there's lots of choices there, but I think, for a landscaper out there, they've just got to choose the one that actually fits the bill the best for them. And I think with the RTK technology, particularly that the Crest brand has, I think that delivers some real vital elements to the program, and takes away a lot of the hardship, particularly with those wired solutions that have been out there, which can be severed fairly quickly, as you rightly pointed out.
Accident. That's true, actually. As long as the school doesn't hire the same landscaping guy, though, we'll be fine.
Well, that's the problem. It's never the same landscaper, though, is it? So that can be a problem.
Well, the other thing is that my retic guy does paving as well. Just like, because we don't do any landscaping, right? Like, we will fix reticulation, we'll plant plants, but we don't do hardscapes at all. And oh my goodness, I'm just more emotionally venting because that was my experience yesterday. It actually happened a couple of weeks ago, but I was trying to solve it yesterday. But look, I've got one more question for you. Sure. I gave some people warning about this, and then I realized it's best not to give warning because it's an interesting question. Hypothetically, I'm asking most brands this question, by the way. Let's say hypothetically there is a fire that's going to happen at every Crest factory in the world. Batteries and chargers are safe, right? Because you kind of need them. What tool, right? Let's say you have a magical ability to save one tool from destruction. I'm going to include the ones that are coming out because obviously your range is going to be much greater then. What is the one tool that you would save so it could keep in production? The one tool that you would stop from getting burnt in the fire?
I can't say two. I'll say one. All right. I think on the commercial side, it has to be the cyber tank. The cyber tank. You
can keep the cyber tank because that's a battery. Okay, so everyone's the rule is the batteries are fine because you need the batteries to run it.
All right.
So I'll count that as a battery.
Okay. Well, that's good then. That gives me the two. So I think, to be quite honest with you, based on feedback and moving forward longer term, it has to be the actual blower, the backpack blower. There's nothing else like it on the market.
And so interesting. And do you know what I've found in these conversations? I think what happens is people come to a platform because of a specific tool that really solves their problem. Because if we're honest, hedges, most whippersnippers, most of that other, or line trimmer, in the real world, there probably isn't much difference between 99% of applications, but it's the person who needs that 1% difference on that one tool that comes in. So maybe people, that's the one for you. But thank you so much for coming on, Lachlan. I found that interesting. I learned so much about the battery technology. I'm glad that we had that conversation. Where do people find Crest?
Crest, they can get onto crest.com, and basically the Australian site will come up, and any of the dealers on the dealer locator there, we've got a network of over 80, and they would be pleased to talk to you about Crest. Or please drop us a line or reach us through socials, and we can actually come out and talk to them ourselves. So.
And those 80 dealers, you can get a Crest in your hands as well, can't you? Just to feel it, see if it's the right suit to you, if it matches. And could they try the blower in the car park, or is that asking?
I think they could. There's no problems there. There's no issue with that. In fact, you could use a blower inside; it wouldn't be a problem. So
it might be for the paperwork the dealer's got going on their desk. That's right. No legal issue or no warranty issue or anything like that. Look. Thank you so much for coming on. And people, if this is interesting you, get in touch. And I'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Pleasure, Luke.